Hello and good afternoon. This is the EZFX Trading Room broadcast for July 15th, 2016. The market is closed, and I just wanted to go through the trades we are in, the trades we are looking at, and give you an update about where we're at, what we're thinking about those trades, and what the plan is for next week. So to get started, first thing I want to do is just review our watch list. The trades we're watching right now, or the pairs we're watching for valid setups, are the dollar peso. We're looking for a buy trade there, a buy trade on the Aussie dollar, the euro dollar, and the pound dollar. Our new or open trades are the dollar Swiss, which is an open retrade. It's the second attempt we made on that pair. The euro Newsy buy, pound yen buy, euro pound sell, pound CAD buy, pound Newsy buy, pound Aussie buy, and pound Swiss buy. We've had a good week this week. We've moved a lot of our stops to break even and hit the initial targets on a lot of these open trades, except for the dollar Swiss and the euro Newsy. Those are still moving towards their initial targets, and the pound Aussie, which had a more aggressive initial target. But just what we've done so far, we had some nice wins on the dollar peso, 505 pips, the dollar yen, 298 pips, and the Swiss yen for 337 pips, with some small losses that we took on hard stops on some other pairs early in the week. So the next thing I want to do is we're going to go to the charts. We're going to review these currency pairs, make note of any updates on our watch list. And if there's any new trades, as usual, I will explain those to you and walk you through the trade plan and how they're going to set up and how I suggest that you trade and manage them. During this webinar, as with all of our webinars, if you have any questions, there is a chat room on this page. If you scroll down, you can go ahead and ask your questions early while I'm talking during the webinar. And at the end, I will answer all of the questions that are posted. So without further ado, let's go to the charts and get started. Starting at the top of the list, let's take a look at the dollar peso buy trade. This did set up a buy trade, and we had a Class A demand zone down here, confirmed later by a color change of the triangular moving average. We did not have a bubble set up for this trade, but that's okay. We can still trade without a bubble. And sure enough, it broke out nicely. The initial entry was down here for about 125 pips stop. And with the initial target being 312 pips, we're getting close to that. It almost touched it before the market closed, and then it pulled back a little bit. So I would expect it's going to hit that next week. It did get to this weekly pivot here, which is interesting. The final target on this trade is, good question, the bottom of this zone here, 18.89711. The zone where this Class A supply zone where the opposite trend began. We're going to go for that. So the plan is that when we hit this target, we move the stop break even, take partial profit, and with the remainder, without any risk of stopping out or of taking a loss on a stop out, we're going to go for this final target up here at 18.89711. So that trade is currently open. Let's go ahead and update the list to reflect that. Next thing we were looking at was a buy trade on the Aussie dollar. And this pair has been trending in the buy direction, although it's been giving some sell signals. And in fact, a sell trade did set up on the close. I am thinking, however, that this is going to go further up. And why am I thinking that? So if we look at the weekly, we can see how far this has dropped for months now. And it just changed, the triangular moving average just changed color here, indicating a potential shift in the direction of the trend. And we got a higher low here. So I'm biased a bit in the buy direction. Certainly there will be sell trades, there will be opportunities to sell it and make profit. In fact, a valid sell trade set up here. We had a sell bubble that sort of gave us advance notice. Then we had a Class A supply zone appear. And we could have sold on those two signals at any point, placing a stop either above the recent highs or above the top of the zone, which might have been a little bit too far to deal with. For example, if we got in here, no, that's not too bad. It's 96 pips, a 96 pip stop, which is doable. And it gives us a decent sized gap between our entry and our stop to absorb any volatility until the pair breaks down. Initial target is the weekly pivot. Final profit target is the monthly pivot. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to call this a sell trade. We talked about a buy entry in the trend direction, but in fact, it did set up a sell trade. It's open. And we'll just track that and see if we can hit those targets. Next, on the euro dollar, we were looking for a buy. And this did not set up a buy. This hasn't set up anything. After the Brexit drop, it's been moving sideways, really doing nothing for us, having no conviction, no direction. That's a 4-hour chart. This is a look on the 1-hour chart. There's just absolutely nothing. There's no bubbles. There's nothing to indicate it's gone too far or it's setting up to break in another direction. It's just moving sideways. There's not even a supply zone, a demand zone on the bottom, which would indicate an opportunity to set up range trades between these two zones. So I'm just leaving this as a trade that a pair that we're watching, and I'm not recommending any trades on this pair at this time. Next, the pound dollar was a buy. And if you remember, this trade is one we tried to get into twice back here after the Brexit drop. And we got stopped out once, we got stopped out twice. And so when it set up again, unlike the other pound pairs, I just didn't bother trying to get in. So fast forward 1 week and all of a sudden we can start thinking about taking a trade on this again. I still like the buy direction simply because we're at a 35-year low on these pairs. I think they've gone too far. I think no matter what kind of idiots get elected to the government in the UK, that this is overdone and that we're going to see continual improvement, possibly even back up to these low levels, which had already priced in a huge drop over a period of months. I mean, you have to remember this pair was dropping since 2014, June. So almost for a year, it's been dropping. Not necessarily in anticipation of Brexit, just because of the poor state of the UK economy in general. So I think it would be absolutely reasonable to think that it might at least come back here, which was already an abysmal level of drop for this currency pair. So we'll see. You know, bad news in the UK, like let's say Scotland pulls out of the UK and decides to join the EU, or Northern Ireland. Those would have devastating effects. I'm not sure that's in the offing in the near term, but it could happen and drive the currency lower. But people are skittish about this pair right now. If you look at what's been going on, and we got a nice gain this last week, it started to pull back as people were looking at events. This is when the new Prime Minister, Theresa May, was named, and it dropped, and then people picked it up and bought it and took it to a new high. Then on Friday before market close, it dropped again as people took profit and got out because they didn't want to be stuck in this trade at market open if there's some bad news that is dumped over the weekend or some event that happens. So it's very volatile. These moves are big. I think this last drop on the pound dollar, yeah, it's only 350 pips, and I had to take large stops of small trade sizes to get in this trade. But now that I'm in the position, I want to stay in, and I want to see if we can at least get back to the monthly pivot. And I'm not gonna set the profit target on here. I'm gonna have that as a soft target on our charts, but maybe we can even trend follow beyond that. Maybe looking at the 4-hour chart, maybe we can even get back here. Wouldn't that be something? So that's where we're at on these trades, and all the pound trades are this way. And I have open trades on the other ones. That's the point I wanted to make. This may give us an opportunity to buy it again. You see it's dropped to this new demand zone here. We have a sell bubble here. If we get a buy bubble and this zone hasn't been punctured at that point, and the stop isn't just exorbitant, I may go ahead and buy it at that level and just go for these same targets, the monthly pivot, and then try and follow the rest of it up, see if we can get even further. So that's a potential buy trade on this. We can use the second chance technique to try to get into this pair when we couldn't according to our rules back here, just because we'd already retraded it twice and we weren't going to get into a revenge trade scenario where we're digging a hole for ourselves. So be on the lookout for a potential second chance trade on that pair on Sunday or Monday. Okay, let's get into the new or open trade list. We already talked about the dollar peso and the Aussie dollar. Let's look at the dollar Swiss sell. That was a retrade. Tried it once, got stopped out, tried it twice. It started to work last time we looked at it. And it did get down to this weekly pivot here. Unfortunately, that wasn't enough risk to reward ratio for our trade to have 1-to-1 or greater based on the entry price that we got. So it's pulled back a bit. The triangular moving average is still indicating a down direction. Our first target has been unhit. If you remember, that target is a monthly pivot. I think that this pulled back today with other currency pairs just because people are taking profit. They're just skittish right now. They're getting out before the weekend, and so it went up. I think that's the only thing driving it on a Friday. So I'm still in this trade. I still like it for a sell, and we'll see what happens next week. Next, let's look at the Euro Newsy. That was a buy trade we talked about last week. This has done extremely well. So we got in down here after it had already created a Class A supply zone. It had gone away. It came back twice. So we were able to get in at a pretty good price down here for about a 64 pip stop. The initial target for just 1-to-1, we could have used this weekly pivot for 125 bips, but I thought, no, let's try for a little more. And so I set that initial target at the weekly pivot for last week. And it almost got there. It's so close. It got there. We saw some Class A divergence, a Class A supply zone formed, and then it dropped a little bit. I think this is just an end of week pullback, and it's going to start moving back in that direction, at least hit our first target next week. And again, the final target on this is this month's monthly pivot. So this trade is open. I think it's in good shape. It's proceeding as planned. Next, let's look at the pound yen buy. Another pound pair did extremely well, had the same pullbacks we saw on the other pound pairs, including this drop at the end of the week. That was a Class A signal with a sell bubble. And you can sell on those if you were in the buy trade. We're almost to our final target, which is this monthly pivot. It almost got there. I would hold out for that, especially because the stop's at break even at this point. We already hit the first target, this last week's weekly pivot, and took some profit. Move the stop to break even. So now there's no risk on the trade, and we can just hold on and kind of weather this volatility and see if we can get to this point or higher. The dollar yen, which we closed this week at the monthly pivot, which was its second target, went a lot further and created this Class A signal right here, and then pulled back at the end of the week. It may still go further. This is a bit of euphoria after Prime Minister Abe's secured more power in the upper house of the Japanese Diet in the recent election. I don't think it's going to be sustainable, but he got a little bounce on the currency coming out of that election because it was seen as a resounding victory for him, even though turnout was only 55% for the electorate. So that, we closed this out. Some people chose to trend follow it. If you chose to trend follow it, this was an exit signal when this Class A zone formed here. So you would have gotten an additional, potentially an additional 180 pips out of this trade before you close it out. Or you could still be in it and you want to push on this zone and see if we can get one more pulse up through these next supply zones and wait for the next new Class A exit signal to appear. Entirely up to you. Next, let's look at the euro pound sell trade. That was a signal trade. This has done surprisingly well. We were able to move our stop to break even this week. It retraced, it made a new low, it formed a Class A zone here, demand zone here, which is an exit signal, but I want to push on these just because it's a pound pair, and we haven't really retraced on this Brexit move yet. We're still waiting for that to happen. So I want that. I want to at least get to this monthly pivot, which I think is totally doable. And now that the stop is at break even, I'm willing to just let it sit there, and it'll either do it or it won't. I don't care about the profit that's on the table in the middle. I want to see if we can get to our planned targets below. So that's still open. Next, pound CAD buy. Pound CAD hit its first target, retraced, hit it again and again and again, formed a Class A zone. We have the triangular moving averages changing color back and forth between blue and red, which indicates that this pair is ranging. This new demand zone seems to be support. We had an end of week retracement here that left some long wicks. I wouldn't be surprised if it rallies again on Monday as people get back in this trade, hoping to get some more profit out of a return in the buy direction. But people are still being very careful after that drop. So we're going to see a lot of these swings. And again, on this pair, if you look at the size of these swings, the most recent one, 342 pips. I mean, it's huge. It doesn't look very big on this chart, but it's really big. Our stops at break even, though, we've already taken partial profit on this on our first portfolio account. So we already have some profit. We've already taken a piece of it. We're trying to get more. I have no risk at this point. If it stopped out, I'm not going to care. I'm just going to wait for the next buy signal, and I'm going to try to buy into it again after that. So, and we can continue to try to get pieces out of this until it makes a clear move up. And it may do that for us next week. It did pretty well last week. I expect this to do it again. Next, let's look at the pound newsy buy. This trade also did well. We actually got to the first target, and we produced a opposite direction Class A supply zone, which is a exit signal. I want to push on this a little more. The triangular moving average hasn't changed color yet. We've had a buy bubble and a sell bubble. I think we're going to get, if we don't get another buy bubble, it may just reverse on the open next week, punch through this zone, and it'll disappear and then go to a new high. I kind of feel like that's what it's telling me it's going to do. So that's still open. Next, the pound Aussie. This is similar to the pound newsy, but it hasn't gotten as far. And it's a lot further to this first weekly pivot target here at 1.78662. The final target, again, is the monthly pivot at 1.8566. This pair really didn't want to go up, and then it finally did break out. Shows the same retracements and advancements as we saw in the other pound pairs. And it made a new buy bubble here, made a sell bubble here, but it didn't go that I mean, it went far. Again, these are big moves. There's a lot of volatility here. It moved 319 pips before it retraced a bit and started to show that it was kind of making a bottom for the end of the week, and people were even trying to get into it after it had produced a pullback and a discount in anticipation of it rising on the open. So they're just kind of setting up, I think, in advance of the coming week. Stop is not at break even on this trade. This is the only signal trade we have open that currently has risk associated with it, because we have to get to this first target before I'm going to move that stop. So this is the only trade that we risk a loss on, but I'm keeping it open for the same reason as the other pound trades. And we'll see first if we can get to our first target and move the stop to break even and take partial profit on the position. Finally, let's look at the pound Swiss buy. This trade also, just like the other pairs, it made a nice advance, withdrew, made a new high, fell again on Friday before the close. I think it's found a bottom at this new demand zone. And I think people are going to want to bid it up again in the coming weeks. So I'm still in this. I want to push on this Class A zone, see if we can punch through it and invalidate it, and at least get to this monthly pivot up here at 1.34446. So that's where we're at right now. I haven't looked for a lot of new trades. It was a busy week. We had a lot of trades closed. We ended up with a lot of net profit, especially on portfolio 1 for the profit target 1. So I feel like we were very successful, and we're set up for additional success with these same trades next week. I think we just need to stay the course and see what happens on the open and manage them accordingly. And especially because most of them are now at break even, we've controlled our risk. If they do stop out, then I will just wait for a new technical setup to appear and try to trade them in the buy direction again, or whatever direction the market and our signals and our system is telling me is valid at that point in time. So thanks very much for watching. We'll be back again on Monday with a new broadcast, and feel free to watch the recorded video, of course, if you weren't able to attend the live broadcast. And going forward, we will have an archive of our past videos, so you'll always be able to catch up and always be able to see what we were up to. If you have any questions at all, just go back to the chat room here. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to email me at ezfxsignal@gmail.com. And you can also go to the community and find me and then send me a private message from your messages function here. And you can also, of course, and I encourage you to post to the groups, join the group, all the groups really, but the group will be posting to for EZFX will be either the trade signals group or the mean reversion trading group. For the trading room though, please use the trading room group. We'll continue discussions that we've started in the trading group offline here. You can post charts, you can ask questions, you can interact with other traders who are members and learning and using these systems offline when we're not in the times when we're not having a live trading room, and really make this a resource, make it part of your trading day. I think it'll make your trading a lot more fun. You can ask questions, kind of reality check if you're unsure about something you're doing, compare notes to somebody else, bounce ideas off of each other. It can really, really, really make a difference in your trading success. So I encourage you to make maximum use of this. That's it for today's trading room. We're starting the weekend now. I hope you have a good weekend. And we'll be back again Monday, like I said, with a new broadcast. I hope to see you there. Have a good weekend, everybody. Bye.